And you have this idea of bite-sized books or shorter books that can be consumed in an hour or two. How did you come to that take on it? I'm just
Much
curious.
much like you did with your podcast, right? You and I were talking earlier, 2 things. 1, I like pithy content. I like content that's tight and focused, and if I wanna spend more money, more time and energy in researching, investigating, let me do that, but don't force me to have to read 500 pages to get the idea of the book. So, it was the idea that I obviously, our attention spans are getting shorter, and there's a lot of things competing for our time. So that was one thing. The other thing I mentioned, I did engineering. I have an engineering degree. I wanted to build a better mousetrap, if you will. And I just felt like, why not construct a formula, a recipe, if you will, for a short, helpful book? We call them shooks, short, helpful books that gives the reader helpful information, delivers on a big promise, a big idea, but they only have to read it in about an hour. And the reason it's shorter, Eric, is because the book then points the reader or those readers who are interested in more from the author to other ways to connect. So it's not just about you close the book and, okay, how do I get more from Eric? It's a great book, but I don't know what else I can do. It's about leading those interested readers to other pathways with you. So that's the thing we've created and really perfected over the years.
I think it's great. In today's culture, a lot of people are used to TikTok and Instagram videos that are 2 or 3 minutes. The attention span is just a lot less. But even more than that, when in my corporate job as a chief marketing officer during COVID, every meeting moved to a video Zoom.
Mhm.
I actually worked for a company where we had flashcards created that I would hold up during some of the Zoom meetings, and some of them were like, "Get to the point, wrap it up." So
You know,
stuff
you
like,
probably could market and sell that.
I think that, "You're on mute." There was a lot of good ones,
Yeah,
but,
right.
"Get to the point and wrap it up" were 2 of my favorites because a lot of times people just wanna fill an hour-long meeting, and so if I was writing a book, I really don't think I needed to start with, "It all began in
Mhm.
Ohio in 1972."
Right.
Like, there's no reason to start there other than to fill a lot of pages. Because I actually
Well,
was asking ChatGPT, "What is the average length of a book?" And I'm like, "Ooh, that's long. That's a lot of words.
well,
75,000 words is, like, a
you're
lot of
right. The average
words."
nonfiction is somewhere between 75 and 100,000 words. I call them books with bloat, B-L-O-A-T. There's oftentimes when there's especially when it's a traditionally published book, it needs to be longer because a book needs to have more heft so they can charge more, etcetera. There's a reason why people have to elongate the content. Now, in some cases, and by the way, I am not poo-pooing textbooks, and there's times when a traditionally long book is necessary. For a lot of folks, for writing and for reading, shorter content. So, one thing I'll say, Eric, is I always say rather than write one 300-page book, write 3 100-page books, right? Break it up. Give the people what they want. They can choose the book they want. They can focus on what they want. They want more, they go to the second book or the third book. So there is an appreciation. Obviously, there's a time and place for long form content, but I do believe a lot, especially for first time authors, writing a shorter book. Now, it's got to be good, short, helpful, it's got to be quality, but it's definitely a better strategy.
I was a journalism major in
Mm,
college,
mhm.
and I decided to go into marketing because the first editor that I worked for while I was interning when I was in college, he's, "You should just go into marketing and do technology instead of writing about technology because you can't write more than 250 words without making a spelling error." And I'm so old, this is before spell check even existed, in my own defense. But regardless, I think that as a journalism major, I was always noticing that it was harder to write good things that were more concise. Like, I had to write it out long first and then go back and rewrite it to be short. But when I did that, people were so thankful. And I just have to share one more thing is that because I had this journalism degree in corporate America, I started out my career and I would really write these long emails. And it got me access to people in management because I could share my ideas, I could write them out, they're very eloquent, but people are like, "What are with these emails? They're so long. Can't
Mhm.
you just make them a little bit shorter?" So, I think that applies to books because some people thought my emails were like books, but they were great emails, but they would have been even better if they would have been shorter. So, I think
Maybe.
you're really onto something.